So I just got done skating 7 miles, and now I matched my shirt. So, I might have been trying to skate some anger out of my system and general irritation with the family situation. Had an interesting conversation with my parents before I left the house. I heard my mom say my name, but I was in the middle of doing something, so I didn't rush. And then when I finally went in there, it's like, what? And she's like, you need to sit down and have a talk with us. It's like, no, I don't want to. And I leaned on the back of the chair. I said, what? And it came back to the damn puppy that I don't want. I want no part of, right? And of course, they have no business getting, since my father's had multiple strokes, and he's going to be next to worthless on doing anything for a puppy anyway, because, well, he wouldn't have really helped with it before the strokes. Now the strokes have given him an excuse to try to capitalize on what he was trying to do anyway, which was absolutely nothing, and let everybody else cater to his bullshit, right? So now he has an excuse for everybody to cater to his bullshit. Yeah. And I'm not really cooperating with that one. But of course, I was going to say I'm not his biggest fan, but I don't like him at this point. We're just... the fact that we're related is unfortunate, I guess. But yes, so Mom asks what I thought Taz would be best with. A puppy or a little bit older puppy, like maybe a year. And I just looked at her and I said, I don't want to take care of a puppy. And she said, well, you won't be taking care of a puppy. We'll be taking care of a puppy. I was like, yeah. And she says, unless something happens to him and I end up staying in the hospital with him again. It's like, yeah. And then you'd expect it to fall on me, right? And then my dad chimes in with, well, you live here. You should have to help take care of it. It's like, no, I don't want to take care of your project. I don't. I mean, that was pretty much the conversation. I don't remember. I think there was a little bit further to it, but I eventually went in the other room, and then as I was thinking about it, I went back in there, and it's like, oh, and by the way, he probably wouldn't do good with either of them, considering yesterday when he got all excited because the freaking Amazon delivery showed up, he ran over and nipped Peppy on the butt because there was no toy conveniently close to him, so that was the most convenient thing he could reach. And she was like, oh. It's like, yeah. So consider that before you try to bring in a puppy in this situation. So, I am over these people. So fucking over them. And I told my brother that, I said I was really half inclined to say, what business do you have in getting a puppy when he's probably not even going to be here by his birthday anyway? Right? So he doesn't take care of himself. He doesn't give a shit. He, at his birthday last year, he was pissed that he was still alive. So it's like, based on all these things, what makes you think he needs a puppy? And I think it's, as I was skating about it, I think it's literally something else to have that he can suck the life out of, energetically speaking. Because that's basically what his dog was good for. And when that whole situation went down, what happened with his was he picked her up and went to sit down with her, but he doesn't just sit. He plops and has broken lots of furniture because of the ploppage. And I don't know what happened with her exactly. She seemed, it wasn't right. She made like a really weird noise that's like beyond just a yelp. And he was all beside himself, of course, because that's his little baby. And when I went over to see what was going on, I kind of like lifted her up and shifted her around a little bit because it seemed like something with her back might have been jacked up. And it seemed like it eased some of the pain that she was probably feeling, but like she was just like all sorts of like kind of a bobblehead at the moment. And when I put her on the ground to see what she did, she was walking, but she still had that kind of little bobblehead thing going on. And honestly, so with my dogs, I set this intention that if there was something going on with them, that I would feel it in my body so I would know kind of what was going on, right? Just to have some kind of awareness. And while she was still there, I kept getting like really sharp pains at like the back of my neck, kind of like up in the spine, like top of the spine. And it's like, it made me wonder if somehow she kind of got like, if it disconnected in some kind of way. She lived another 12 hours and then like she just was gone. I mean, she was walking around and looked fairly happy, but she never looked completely stable. And I don't know why they didn't take her to the emergency vet that at that point. I think it was because she was up and walking and they thought maybe she was okay. Felt pretty confident she was not okay, but yeah. But anyway, she ended up dying the next night, which was New Year's Day. And, you know, my mom makes this big deal of, we can't let him think that this was his fault. It's like, well, you know, I'm kind of over catering to people's bullshit at this point. And, you know, oh my God. I just kept thinking about going off on them, especially with the nature of that conversation about how since I live there, I should have to take care of a puppy that I don't want. And it brings up a lot of feelings, y'all. It brings up a whole lot of feelings. Big piece being that transactional thing, right? It's not that the family actually loves you at all. It's you're there, so you're obligated to do something to participate because that's why you're there, right? So, I don't know what this is. What's going on there? But yeah. And in an ideal scenario, I would fully expect to participate living somewhere. However, since I was unable to live my own life because I existed simply to allow the older generations to suck the life out of me, no, I'm not going to participate anymore. I'm done with their bullshit. I have, you know, I spent my life feeling like my father resented me anyway, and he's proven as much in the past few years since I've been back for, with the whole divorce and everything. It's like, no, I want no part of anything helping with that man. And I'm not going to. So, And it goes down to, he married my mom. Okay, first off, she graduated midterm in December 1979, and they got married in November 1979. So she got married before she was even graduated, right? And he was 26, right? So there's that gross element too. But whatever. And she claims she always knew he was her soulmate and all that lame bullshit. It's like, well, you spend an awful lot of time hating each other for that to be the case. And I kind of snapped at her the other day and mentioned, or she was trash talking him, and it's like, yes, because you just love each other so much. And she's like, well, I'm venting. She goes, I'm sure you and your brother vent about me and your father all the time. It's like, yeah, but you know what? I also don't like you. Either one of you. Now that I realize why my life has been as fucked up as it has, I don't like either one of them, right? 11-11. Funny thing, when I skated, right, 7.01 miles, and I paused the app because I have to pause it before then I have to hold it to finish so it knows that I'm actually trying to finish the workout. And I paused it at 1 hour and 11 minutes and 8 seconds. It's like, well, fuck, we're right there at 3 seconds. I went ahead and let it run to 11. And it actually stopped on 1/11/11 on June 11th. And 7.01 on the miles. So there's something about this whole tangent, I think. But yeah, like, God, my ears ringing. I was just sick of the bullshit. And okay, yes. So they got married, right? And really, she was more convenient, I think, than anything, because apparently the woman that he wanted to be with she was in the military and ended up stationed in Germany, and he didn't end up going with her because he felt obligated to take care of his family in their older years. So, going back to that piece where I felt resented my entire life, I mean, if he married my mom when she wasn't the one that he wanted to be with, and then had kids with her, it would make sense that he would resent his kids, right? And, I've talked many times about how my brother has talked about, anytime something was wrong with the car, my dad would just lump it in as bad gas. It's probably just bad gas. And wouldn't check it out. And it's like, I've talked many times about how I felt pretty confident that if the car blew up with me in it, he would be okay with that, right? So, yeah. I've told my brother that, and he said he's felt that a bit too. So, yeah. But anyway. Another thing, I was just like fucking ranting in my head about over there while I was skating. I skated at the high school, but now I'm over at the elementary down the road from my house I have to take the long way to get over here because construction. So even longer way to get back home. High school had a lot of shit going on. I think band practice was moving outside. I think they'd been doing inside stuff, and then baseball just wrapped up, but tennis was picking up. It's like there's just a lot going on. So it's like, you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna come over here and try to give myself time to not be all pink, which I think it's dissipating a little bit. I did not take a picture beforehand. I thought about it, and then I was just looking at it. It's like, yeah, I'm too pink for that right now. So forget it. Right. But anyway, going back with, that element and that little resentment piece, and then thinking back to fucking November when my mom was living in the hospital because her daddy was in the hospital, and she, was there letting him suck the life out of her because, she felt obligated to enable him, right? She was the oldest, so that was her job. She was his number one enabler, well, besides my grandma. At one point, I think I was kind of just on a little angry tirade about something with my mother and her father, and my dad throws out something about or something with my band stuff. It was like, I already knew that he kind of resented my band stuff because they were ass deep in the middle of it, right? And like, beyond helicopter parenting, like, she was like fucking trying to live through me, and she didn't ever get to have her own life, so everything she did, or everything I did, was for her to live vicariously through me in some kind of way. There's a kid here that was practicing driving, and the girl that got out of the car, like, they switched places. It didn't look like his mom. I mean, it might have been, but it looked like it was really close to his age, so whatever. Anyway, you know, I knew he resented my band stuff because, of course, she drug him into it as well. And he fired off something about that whole experience, and then says something about when she was kissing all over the band director, or the choir director. It's like, excuse me, what? Come again now? And I said something about I didn't know that or something, and he was like, well, I wasn't going to say anything about it, and, you know, talking about it like it was no big deal or whatever. It's like, okay, first off, if we want to approach it from the standpoint of, was my father just delusional and making stuff up, I'd absolutely believe that. On the other hand, do we want to approach it from the standpoint of, would my mom do that? Yeah, I think she would. You know, she told my brother that she was sexually assaulted at some point, but she didn't want me to know that. And it's like, okay, so what is the purpose of telling your son this information and saying that I was not supposed to know about it? And honestly, like, when he mentioned it to me, it's like, my immediate thought was, I didn't believe it. And I think that's probably why she didn't want to say anything to me about it, because she knew I wouldn't believe it, because, well, with her, it would make sense for her to be making it up. It just would. You know, because she's always she likes playing the victim. However, she also will spin on a moment's notice and play the terrorist as well. So, so yeah, kind of torn on that, but don't really believe what she told my brother. And from the standpoint of, she knew, I think it was a manipulation tactic, because my brother has always been quick to wanting to help. You know, I've always kind of filed him in as one of the good guys. He's not trying to hurt anybody. He's trying to live his own life and go out of his way not to hurt anybody. But in going through hoops to help and not harm, he's gotten shat on a lot. By a lot of people, especially our mother. And yeah. You know, like I said, I've said many times, it took me setting boundaries and then starting to realize how toxic our family is, and then starting to tell him what I was learning, as well as kind of low-key sending him like rocks and things to help with protecting his energy and setting boundaries as well, before we could really have that conversation of that piece of it, that trying to help him on that end, you know, because, you know, like, okay, the YouTube thing, I would not tell him anything about that starting out, because I knew if I would have mentioned it starting out, then he would have said something to our parents, because he was still under their bullshit. And, you know, I've said many times, me and him have both played the role of the flying monkey against each other before. right? And it took me setting boundaries and stepping back and really looking at it, and then helping him to start setting boundaries, and then talking to him about what I was noticing, and then he really started noticing it. And then it also registered that his wife has been talking about a lot of the toxic stuff with the family and the family drama for a long time, and he didn't see it because, well, he couldn't see it. He's too close to it. He's in the middle of it, so it's hard to disconnect when you don't know what the problem is, right? Or that there is a problem, and I've talked about many times, it took him going to his therapy group before he really understood that a lot of what our mother has done, as far as things she said and done where he's concerned even, is like blatant manipulation tactics, and to manipulate his emotions and rope him into taking more responsibility than he should have ever taken on things, right? So, that part, like, I've been telling him that kind of stuff for a long time. It's like, she's like, there's a lot going on here. Like, he knew that I have always had issues with her at some level, but until I really started setting the boundaries energetically and being detached enough that I didn't get pulled back into her bullshit, it's been difficult to navigate through some of it. But like, I remember when I went to undergrad, he was staying at home. Okay, it was like his 4th year in undergrad. He changed majors every semester because he didn't know what he wanted to do. Because the only reason either of us went to undergrad immediately after high school was because it was our mother's number one regret that she hadn't gone to college right after high school. And so she wanted us to go. But neither one of us knew anything about what we wanted from life or what we wanted to do. We didn't know anything about who we were in the world or whatever. So it's like, we went, and I at least came out of it with a degree the first time around, but like, he changed his major every semester and then finally just dropped out and joined the Air Force. And then I spent the first couple of years shuffling between a few different things before I finally settled in on psychology and religious studies. And the psychology piece, like, the biggest part there was, I figured, since I didn't know anything about what I wanted to do, maybe I would figure something out about myself. Maybe I could figure out what my problem is. And I think I gave myself a pretty decent toolbox to be working on this stuff all these years later. But yeah, it took me a long time to get here even. And it was like my minors were creative writing and interpersonal relations. And it's like, that was just like a branch of psychology in there. Like, a bunch of my psychology classes also would count for that. So it's like, okay, well, we'll just knock it out with a double minor too, because I've already taken these classes and it works for this other thing. But then the creative writing was I think that was probably the biggest thing that was actually, I was interested in the writing, and I've always kind of known that writing is part of my path in some kind of way. So I did that and kind of played with it for a little bit, but then, like, when it came down to actually doing it and getting involved with it, it's like, I've talked many times about how I always went into self-sabotage mode because my mother would hijack the thing. Both of them, like my bear picture that I talk about frequently. I found out I won this contest in January, and within a half an hour, when I was trying to fill out the paperwork to give the zoo permission to use it, they had me in tears, and I spent the rest of the day crying because they had hijacked the day from me and, like, tried to ruin it. And then it was really aggravating, because when I realized that was what they had done, it's like, okay, well, what do I do with that? And what I ended up doing with that was, when I went to the Wednesday night class that week, it's like, you know what, I'm going to take this back. It's like, they were assholes about it. They clear, or made it really clear that they didn't think that, well, I've spent my whole life believing I wasn't good enough to win things and do decent things. That's why I haven't done anything more than I've done, which, I've also talked about that on here. It's like, I'm 41 and currently living at home with my parents because I had to move back in with them when I was getting a divorce, because I wanted to be done with my ex quickly enough that I let myself get fucked over just to be done with him. And I talked, I think yesterday, I did a video and I mentioned how, we tapped out my fucking retirement to get moved to Alabama. And like after we got married, the first thing we ended up signing the lease on a rental house, and within a half an hour of signing the lease, I found out I lost my job with the temp agency that I was working at. And it wasn't really a surprise. I hated that job. Me, who always had a problem using my voice, was working at a call center. So yeah, it wasn't really an ideal situation. But I maxed out my student loan that semester for living expenses so I could contribute, right? And then I did it again after we knew we were going to be moving to Alabama for his job situation, because he wanted to take a better job that was down there. So he actually had, I think 2 months in Alabama before he went to Germany for 6 months for job training. And in that time, I maxed out another student loan to get the truck in good shape. Like, it didn't have a working air conditioning. It's like, well, we're not fucking taking that to Alabama without a working air conditioner. Fuck that nonsense. So, I spent somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 getting that thing in better shape, because there was a lot of little things that needed to be done for it. The air conditioning was one of the bigger things. But yeah, so he got to keep his truck, and I still have student loans that are accruing interest that he doesn't. He didn't have to worry about those. His truck got fixed. I got screwed. And also, when I moved down there to Alabama with him, in the time that it took me to find a job, and then the jobs that I ended up with were I had a job at a daycare and a job at fucking Target, and they made $9 an hour. And he wouldn't help me make a couple car payments. So my car ended up getting repoed. And I called the fucking bank and was trying to figure out a way to make it work. And the guy said that I said, would I be able to make a couple $100 payments every week for a few weeks? And I think I made 6 of those. Somewhere between 4 and 6. But I really feel like it was closer to 6. And my car still ended up getting repoed because the guy wasn't clear that it would be going to the principal and not to the payment. And so I didn't think about it. Whereas I could have, if I made it, held out a little longer to actually make a full payment. But because I had the traumatic brain injury back in 2013, and we moved to Alabama in, it was 2014 when he took the job, 2015 when he was in Germany, and then 2015 when we ended up in Alabama. So I wasn't firing on all cylinders anyway, but then, yeah. So I ended up getting fucked all around, right? And, the biggest thing that I've thought on that is, you know what? I know the universe has my back, and, this will eventually, everything's going to come full circle, and I will be fine. Obviously, I haven't quite got there yet, and I think my family is a big hold up on that piece, and I'm kind of wondering to what extent of any of this that I'm actually going to have to like start mouthing off to them. But this whole situation's fucked up, and I'm so ready to be done with it. And this has been kind of a weird day, because I woke up this morning and like I don't fully remember the dream, but I remember like there was this conversation being had, but like I was in a good mood, and it's like I felt like I was just in a good space. But then I really just wanted to be quiet today, and at one point I left my phone in the office on my desk and went outside and sat with the dogs, and I was out there for like a half an hour just quiet. It's like, this is nice. I don't do this enough. And Gracie got to a point where she stayed all night last night. I did not let her stay in my room this time because she was acting wild, and I didn't want any part of that. I've mentioned again, I think she's kind of the energetic leak in a lot of ways, because she's 9 now. She doesn't have any sense of needing boundaries or what that means or looks like or anything. So she's one of those places where my parents still have access to me and my brother. And that, I think that like that was a big part last night. It's like she wasn't in my room. It's like, no, kid. Last time you spent the whole time kicking me in the middle of the back, and he did not. No. Not doing that. So yeah, let's see, where's my phone at? 33, okay. So she stayed out on the couch, so my mom slept in there on the other couch, and this morning when I went out there, my dad was sitting where my mom had slept all night, and my mom had to go over to the nursing home, like the rehab place where my grandma's at, the rehab place where my grandfather was also at, and before he started going, to the hospital, and, he came back home once and ended up going septic or whatever, and then having to go to the hospital, and then he went back to the rehab place, and then he went back to the hospital, and then that was kind of like the end of it. And then the last time he went home, it was to die, thankfully. And so my aunt, I guess last week, took my grandma to the emergency room because they thought she had a UTI, and they ended up admitting her, and they were kind of, I don't know if it was the hospital wondering it or just my mom and her sisters were wondering if she had gone septic also. So that was a concern. Now my grandma's at the rehab part of the nursing home, and they really want her to stay there. And that's, the staff wants my grandmother to stay there. She's out of the neighborhood, whatever. God, I'm sick of these people, dude. I was just being quiet and good all day and minding my own business, and I got pulled into their bullshit, and and they want to have this conversation about this puppy that they know I don't want. I'm going to start calling him my ex's name, honestly. Like, if they keep pushing this, I'm just going to start calling him that. It's like, you're doing what he was doing, right? You're trying to make it so I have to stay. And so you can, like, suck, like, my life energy out of me in some kind of way. And this way it would be through a puppy, because that I would feel bad for the puppy for having 2 old assholes to be the lone extent of dealing with it. My mom doesn't even pay enough attention to her own dog. Her dog's 13. She don't give a shit about her. Like, she'll pet her every now and then, but she doesn't, like, sit down with her unless she's going to brush the shit out of her. So it's like, why should we think you're going to do any better with a puppy? But she thinks it would bring more life back to my father. It's like, don't do it. You don't need no more life. He's wasted enough of the one he's got anyway. And he's never been grateful for it either. And it's like, now, that we see this glorious horrendousness coming from him, it's like, that's just because he doesn't have access to me anymore, me and my brother. Since we've set boundaries, and we're not just letting them pull us this direction and that direction because they're bullshit whims. Now they're having to face the fact that they're really miserable people, and we're not buffering it for them. So, I've talked a lot about how I always felt like, since I could feel other people's pain, that it meant I was somehow obligated to heal it. I have now figured out that is not the case, and all it does is suck the life out of me. So I refuse. 555. And I'm not doing it anymore. I won't. I was thinking while I was skating, it's like, it is time to get serious about moving shit out of there. So, I've been kind of weighing my options on, what do I really want to put in the storage unit? And it's like, I think we're just at the point where it's just time for it to, if I'm not using it immediately, put it in there. And make the room around me, disconnect from the inside space, because that's exactly like those quantum entanglements kind of things, right? I've talked a lot about how, it's like I would spend so much time cleaning, and then I would get to a point where I'd have to take a break. And then what I was realizing was their stuff kept creeping into my space. And like, my dad would be throwing his stuff on like my skate stuff, right? So I get done skating, I take my pads out of my bag and lay them out on my dog crates, right? And then he'd start throwing his shit on top of it. Then one day there was this coat, one day there was just his blanket that, he would sit in that room, because that room tends to be the cleanest, because I will occasionally clean that one up. And, my mom doesn't do anything with the family room anymore, and she's just iffy on the bathroom, really, so in there. So if he's going in there all the time, now he has to, that's his filth, right? So, I've talked about how he's put fucking apple cores he'll leave those on the end table, put like fruit snack wrappers in the armrest of the couch, because we can't just throw them away. And for a long time, he would, like, when his dog was around, he would give her like the plastic of the breakfast bowl. If he was having one of those, he would leave it on the floor for her. And at one point, there were like 5 of those that were just on the floor behind the couch, because he won't pick them up. So I started picking them up and putting them in front of him, or putting them on his desk. That's what I do with it. So if I have to move his shit, it's going to his space, but it's still going to be where, like, his shit's not getting handled, So, like, if it's a dirty coffee cup or whatever and goes on his desk because he didn't put it in the sink, then it's just his coffee cup's dirty. I pulled out, I had a mug. I have one fucking mug in there, right? And it was one that my former mother-in-law got for me. And it said, "Dogs because people suck." And I liked it. I still have it. And we'll use it. One, right? One that is mine. And my father started trying to use it. It's like, no, do not make my one cup fucking smell like coffee. It's like, I don't drink coffee. I don't want any part of coffee. I don't want my hot chocolate mug to smell like coffee. I just don't, but he's gotten in trouble for that. But yeah, it's like the little things. It's like when I stopped tending to stuff in the main living areas, it basically stopped getting done. And I've talked about how the time my aunt and uncle came out, my mom made this big deal about they were coming, we needed to clean. And then at midnight, the day before, or night before, she was vacuuming out the lint trap on the dryer, but that was all she did. I did tend to the living room because that's where most of my stuff is. I have a few things in the family room, and it's mainly because I had gotten a bunch of toys out for Gracie to play with. I got them cleaned up, but then she's like getting ready to move, so she's not been interested in them anyway. So I decided to like some of them that I'm going to take back and put in like my space later, just as, you know, like gem dolls. I talked when I was cleaning them up and put them out for her to play with. I got this really strong sense that it's like I needed to take these two in particular out, and one of them is this character called Dance, spelled with an S, but she's got hair like I do. With all the colors, most of them have like blue or red or purple, but she had like all the colors. And then another one, which is Jetta, has black hair with silver streaks in it. It's like, I've talked about how I feel like that's kind of like my light and shadow aspect. It's like the two sides of myself, right? And I just felt like I was supposed to have them in my space. But then I was thinking, it's like, maybe I should hang on to some more of the, like the Littlest Pet Shop stuff, like the things that I was really into when I was little. I feel like my inner child would like to hang on to those. I mean, not because I'm going to play with them or anything, but just for the sake of, I got a lot of it cleaned up. And since I spent all the time and effort and all that stuff, I feel like I just kind of want to hang on to some of it. So I was going through and pulling some of my stuff out, right, on that end. So Gracie's not playing with it anyway. So, I got to condense it a little bit better. But yeah, like I just feel like that's a time in my life that needs to be represented in the next space that I end up in at some level. So yeah, so like that stuff, I need to finish condensing it and put it in the storage unit. My Foot Locker can go in the storage unit. That was the Foot Locker I was going to get money out of, and then my mom's like, well, if you're not going to use it, then I'll use it. So it was just specifically, she wanted it, and I couldn't get money out of it because she wanted it, right? So, yeah. Oh, boy. So the other day I was over here skating, and there's these two little girls playing on this golf cart. I live in the neighborhood across the street. And every time they would come close, one of them would just randomly scream. I randomly screamed back at her. I don't think she was expecting it, but she did it again after that. But it's just kind of like, fuck off, dude. Yeah. But I think that was them. But I'm sitting in my car this time, so hopefully they'll just leave me the fuck alone. Yeah, that's just so irritating. So just the tedious bullshit. But it's kind of funny because I just feel like all that quiet today that I felt like I just needed, it was like it was my system preparing for more of the bullshit so we could get it out of the system, right? So we're not hanging on to it. I went and skated 7 miles, so that was a good start to getting it out of my system. And of course, I'm talking my way through it. And then, of course, I will go take a shower and use lots of salt. Because I'm just so fucking over this place and these people. When I was skating, I was having this little imaginary conversation in my head, and I was just thinking, or I imagine telling them that August 31st, I don't know how it's going to happen, but by August 31st, I will be out of there. And I'm going to fall off the face of the planet as far as they're concerned. They will not have access to me anymore. So, by the way, Dad, if you want me at your funeral, then you might as well kick the bucket before I go, because otherwise, don't care. Same with my grandma. If she does it before I'm gone, then I'll probably go. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I will. Because I'm kind of just done with them. All of them. And I mentioned the other day, I was like, there's this whole ordeal with a fucking fan, right? So there were fans in the camping stuff that my mom had apparently moved or dug out, which she didn't dig them out that far. They weren't hiding that deep in there. But it was after we had this conversation about how my room's been 76 in the middle of the night. And so I saw, hot damn, there's a fan. So I grabbed the fan and put it in my room. And then later she was like, did you take my fan? It's like, what fan? And she's like, well, my fan crapped out, so I, got the one out of the camping stuff because I was going to put it in there. It's like, I didn't know your fan crapped out. I didn't know. That's why you dug it out or whatever. See, because to me, if I needed something right then, as I did, I saw it, I grabbed it. Because I didn't know there was anything else that it might potentially be needed for, right? So then she's just like, she like follows me to my room and is standing in the doorway as I grab the fan off of like the stack of stuff that I had just set it down on. And she just like gives me the same fucking sadistic look that my asshole grandfather always gave me with, trying to diminish me in some kind of way. And it's like, bitch, I didn't know your fan crapped out. I do know we had this conversation about how fucking hot my room's been recently. So, I guess, realistically, I knew better than you were just being generous or whatever. It's like, yeah, whatever. Fuck you, asshole. And then I messaged my brother and it's like, your mom's a bitch, dude. And he's just like, I know, but what now? So over these fucking people. Yeah. And of course, I guess there's a full moon tonight, so that's probably not helping anything. But everything that I've seen so far seems to suggest making sure not to get hung up in the negativity and release. And so this was a big part, skating was a way to release it. Talking through it is a way to release it. And then I'm going to go clear it out of my system and we're going to put it aside and be done with it. And go back to focusing on good things. And so, yeah. So I pulled a bunch of cards last night from that Twin Flame deck that I fucking love, and I'm so glad I ended up with it. It might have been part of the reason why I was at the Inner Path place a couple weeks ago, but I didn't find it the first time. But I did find it the second time, and it's like, this needs to come with me. And so I got it. And so, like, immediately, like, the cards I pulled out of it were, like, completely relevant. But then yesterday, I pulled 5 out of it. The first one was this King card, and it was Divine Masculine, right? And then the second one was this Integration, and it said multi-dimensional healing. And then the last one was it was a Twin Flame card, like actually called Twin Flame, I think, and it said everything is possible. It was 1111 card. And then the next cards, oh yeah, she's gonna be screaming for long. They just drove back that way and they were both looking at me. It's like, oh, yep. Anyway. The next 2 cards out. God, what was that next one? I don't remember, but it was something kind of similar. And then the last one was another 1111 card, and it was Pathway to Healing. And then the 3 cards on the bottom of the deck. Okay, there was the first one out was It was not the divine masculine. That's the king card. I don't remember what it said it was, but it was like, oh, masculine twin. And at the bottom it said karmic release. And then I don't remember the next one, but then the last one was another 1111 card. So there were 3 1111 cards, and then like 2 of the ones, like, okay, the ones that came from the bottom of the deck, the 2 other cards, one was a 6 card and one was a 5 card. It's like, so it adds to 11 also. So technically there's 4 11s right there, or 4 1111s. But yeah, but at least the last 3 in each line of cards that I pulled out was an 1111. So that's kind of interesting in and of itself. And then the first 2 were like actually, you know, one divine masculine, but then also the masculine twin. So it was like the unhealed version and the healed version, right? So it was just kind of, I don't know, kind of interesting. But they were very relevant. But then, yeah, and I wrote them in the journals. And I left them on the desk because it's like, I feel like there's more that I'm supposed to sit and think through with them, make connections, make my own connections based on what, you know, what's said in them and whatnot. But yeah, in my quiet time, I did not do that completely. So, where can I go to get the sun? Not right there. I'm just, God, I'm over this place. I'm over these people. I'm just over it. It's like, I don't know how, but I feel like the big thing right now is to focus on packing and clearing my stuff out of there. Anything that I'm not using needs to go there immediately, and the stuff that I am using, I'll hang on to, but probably pare it down a lot because there's a lot. Okay, like my clothes, I got a ton of clothes. I'm pretty sure I could probably wear different things every day for 2 months before I really needed to do laundry. But I do laundry more than that, but I'm pretty sure I have that many outfits anyway. So some of that I can probably clear out of the way. I put a shirt on today. I was all excited about my toucan shirt and discovered it was a 2X. It's like, son of a bitch. I thought I got rid of all the 2Xs, but apparently I didn't. So that one can go now. Which I have other stuff. Found the sweatpants the other day for that damn sweatsuit that's the bane of my existence. Yeah. So the sweatpants can go back to that place. My T-Turtle shirts that are 2Xs. I posted them on Facebook, and like when I did that the first time around, it was close to Christmas, and they went quick. This time around, and it's kind of sad because these ones I liked a lot better. You know, one of them is my it's got a Jack Skellington on it. It says, "What's this?" And it's got a snowflake. And then the other one, it says Jurassic, and it has a Tyrannosaurus Rex on a skateboard with some like 80s bling kind of stuff. And then on my toucan shirt, makes me sad. I like that one. I like all 3 of those actually. So those are too good to go to Goodwill. So I will put those in a bag to go to that other place that I took the rest of that shit to. I might do some more purging. But yeah, I definitely need to start just disconnecting more of my stuff. I got my bike over there. That thing's probably going to need new wheels before I can use it. They're like flat as shit right now, but I'm pretty sure the wheels are probably just dead at this point. I think I got it from like my 16th birthday. But I'm still a good bike. It does have duct tape on it in like one spot that could probably be fixed. And, you know, when I get somewhere, I'll worry about it. But right now, I'm hanging on to it. So, still my colors. It's teal and black. Yeah. But that made it over there. And there's been a lot of miscellaneous things that have made it over there so far. But I think my next focus, like I said, is just anything I'm not using, like the keyboard under my bed, that can go. Yeah. But it's just time to, like, if I'm not actively using it, the little things on the shelves, pack it up, move it out. because we're making a space, so we have room to allow in whatever the universe is bringing our way. Because I've talked a lot about, I feel like once things start moving, they're going to go quick, and I feel like it's right there, like right on the verge. So yeah. But that's, I was thinking I'm going to go to the zoo on Friday. Like, Gracie probably won't go with me, but, I'm not even going to ask at this point. I'm just going to make sure nobody needs me for anything on Friday and take off and go to the zoo. And pictures or whatever that I can do. Zoo membership is over June 30th, and my mom is still gloating that that's a thing that she was not going to be paying for anymore. So it's like, she wants to whine about how my brother's taking her granddaughter away from her and all this stuff, but then she likes gloating at the stuff where it's also going to affect me in some kind of way. Like, since it was my bear picture from the zoo that won a zoo contest, she's thrilled to death that that's no longer a thing. Now, and mind you, the only reason we had the zoo membership was because Gracie was with us all the time, so it was, something fun to do, and it made sense to do it that way because it's cheaper if you're paying for the membership and then get to go however many times and don't have to pay for anything additional unless you get lunch there or ride tickets. And I got 4 ride tickets or animal feeding, so if Gracie's not going to go, I guess maybe I'll feed some birds or a giraffe or something, or maybe I'll just find some little kid that wants tickets and give them to him. My brother said on Sunday they are going to Oklahoma, so tomorrow I'm going to watch the kid for a little bit, and then after he's done at his appointment, he's going to pick me and the kid both up, and we are going to go to Greenwood so he can get a rental car. And then Sunday they are going to drive out to Oklahoma, and they will be there, I think he said Wednesday they're going to be going to Dallas and flying out from there to go to Wales. So yeah. So I guess tomorrow we'll have that conversation of, so I guess you're wanting me to watch your dogs then. Yeah. Which, it works out pretty well on that end. It's gonna... it's tiring walking his dogs because they're all over the place. But they kind of slingshot each other back and forth, so that's kind of fun and burns some energy. Yeah. Fuck. But yeah, they're going to do that. Apparently the house is back on hold. The buyer for the people that were going to buy their house fell through, so they're back in waiting. And he just keeps saying that I'm gonna be pissed if she's putting out that bad energy that keeps causing this to fall through or whatever. It's you don't know what else is going on. And I told him, it's what, part of it is probably because there's some stuff that's not lined up for me yet, so Gracie is still a big source of income for me because of the respite care stuff. So while I have it, I'm using it, and trying to get the rest of my shit together so I can get the fuck up out of there as soon as my opportunities line up. But yeah, I think I just need to start. It's just disentangling shit. And that's the biggest thing, is because, their shit keeps creeping in and trying to take over my stuff or whatever. So it's if I just get it out of there, then I don't have to worry about them doing that, right? So I'm going to go ahead. I was thinking about this earlier. It's okay, so I have it's a layer of stuffed animals that I can put in the bottom of of one of those totes, and then start packing those birds in there in some kind of way. I still have some of my winter leggings, so I'll probably use those to go ahead and like pack stuff in as well. But I'm going to go ahead and get the birds out of there, and the curio cabinet, and my chair from my great-grandmother that I still got to fix the cushions on. My sewing machine is already over there, so obviously I'm not fixing the cushions before I end up wherever I'm going. I'll get there. But yeah, the keyboard under my bed, that's gonna go. I was thinking could pack up the rest of my puzzles. I took a bunch over there the other day, but then I can go ahead and take that bookcase over there as well. I will say, since the third vehicle will be back over at the house where it belongs, since my brother won't be needing to borrow it for a few days, my mom will be driving that, so I'll be back to having access to the truck. So if I want to move the bookcases over there without my mom around, she'll probably be out with the car. So visiting my grandma at the place, at the home. Yeah. But I think that's the big thing. It's just my readiness needs to be looking more like we're ready. We're fucking ready, and make some space. Because so far, every time I've needed like the little bit of income. Okay. Yesterday I took the family friend to her hair appointment, and she gave me $10. And I had $6 in my bank account. And I put the $10 in there. And then I also, before I put the $10 in there, I got an alert on my phone that my Care credit card, the payment is due on the 16th. It's like, fuck, I haven't made that one yet. I thought I had. So there's my 16. Like $6 and some change. And I put the 10 in there and then set it to pay that. So, all right, I have change in the bank. That's all right. It's like every time I need it, it's something comes together, so like I'll get paid for Gracie this week and next, and then of course she'll be gone next week and the following, or at least part of the following. So then I'll have dog sitting. So it's just like, it's just enough to cover what I have to pay right now. But every time I need something, it's there. So it's like, I'm just going to trust that that's going to continue, and, keep making space for things to flow in my way, and hopefully get the fuck up out of there in a timely fashion. Like, if I have that conversation with my parents, then I will tell them I fully anticipate being out of there by August 31st at the absolute latest. Hopefully. Will not be that till then. I don't know if I'll go ahead and tell them that I will be writing them off completely and just, don't want anything to do with them after that point. Yeah, I was even thinking earlier, it's like, I should just, like when I was all angry and everything, it's like, I should just tell them to go ahead and amend their will and write me out of it, so, whatever happens with him, then they don't have to worry about me, right? And then I'll figure it out. Even though that would make it a little easier to figure things out. But I don't know. Like I said, I let myself get screwed over with the shit with my ex. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe that experience is largely to show me that, what? This other situation has fucking sucked my entire life. My dad has been one of my biggest bullies since I was 8. So maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should just kind of ride it out and then hope something happens before I get the fuck up out of here. I don't know. That might very well be the thing, but I don't know. But I'm just going out of my way to avoiding him at all possible costs. And my mom too, although I talk to her more out of necessity than anything. But yeah, So done with these people. I was thinking earlier, it's like I could just fast. That would kind of make this process go a little faster. 444. So I just fast for the last 2 months until I get the fuck up out of here. All right, universe, hunger strike until it's time to go. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because I really have to pee. So, as always, I appreciate you. Until the next time. See ya.